The Try Guys are some of the most infamous YouTubers ever, from escaping the cult of BuzzFeed to kicking out one of their founding members, which actually saved them in a way they never could have predicted, to being roasted by SNL. And those are the main points that almost everybody knows about them, but what a lot of people don't know, what I didn't know before making this video, is that there is so much more insane Try Guys lore. So we're gonna go through the entire history of the Try Guys, starting with how none of them ever actually wanted to make YouTube videos to begin with, yet somehow, almost against their wills, they all ended up making videos for BuzzFeed.
The Try Guys lore starts way back in 2013, when four complete strangers, Keith Habersberger, Zach Cornfield, Eugene Lee Yang, and Ned Fulmer, all became interns at BuzzFeed's video department, making videos for the very creatively named YouTube channel, BuzzFeed Video. And some important context here, back in 2013, BuzzFeed did this thing where they would never hire someone on full-time off the bat. They would always have them do a 3-month paid internship first as a sort of trial run, and then if they liked their work enough, they'd offer them a full-time job. And the way that these four guys all ended up getting internships and eventually full-time jobs at BuzzFeed is simply wild, because truly, I do not think a single one of them wanted to work there when they first got those internships. So first things first, we've got to cover how they all ended up even being at BuzzFeed in the first place, because it is fascinating how truly accidental it was. First up, we have Zach, who only applied for the initial internship because he was crashing out and in a horrible depressive spiral. Zach had wanted to be a movie director ever since he was 10, and his parents bought him a Lego Movie Maker kit for Hanukkah.
It's the world premiere of LEGO Studios. Hook up the digital video camera to your PC and you're ready to roll.
And from that gift on, he was hooked. He spent all his free time as a kid making movies starring his teddy bears or his friends. He went to Emerson College and majored in film studies, and then as soon as he graduated college, he moved cross-country to LA to pursue his dreams of becoming a movie director. And right off the bat, things were going really well for him. He immediately started getting jobs as a production assistant on commercials, and pretty quickly he was promoted to the role of production coordinator, which is the person that makes all the call sheets, coordinates travel plans with talent, makes sure the production company has all the work permits they need. Like, this man was fresh out of college, and he instantly had a thriving career in the entertainment industry. This is everything he could have asked for. But there was just one problem. He hated it. Zach moved to LA because he wanted to direct movies, and instead he landed in this polar opposite job, which is honestly maybe the least creative job in the entertainment industry. Like, he wanted to make the next Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and instead he was making sure Bethany was on set on time for her big Taco Bell ad spot. So while yes, he did have a job in the entertainment industry, it was in no way the job he wanted, and he became horribly depressed. But this is where BuzzFeed comes in, because at the time, Zach was friends with Ella Milnishenko, one of the founders of BuzzFeed's video department. And Ella saw the potential that Zach had, so she just offered him an internship at BuzzFeed, where he could produce and direct videos and do the thing he actually wanted to do. And so Zach said no. You guys, he said no. He said, I want to make blockbuster movies, not silly little YouTube sketches. I will keep working this job that I hate, because maybe one day that provides a path for me to become a movie director. And you know what? Honestly, fair. I don't know how Hollywood works at all, okay? Maybe there is a path to go from production coordinator to director. It seems unlikely to me, but I don't, who am I to say? But for months, Ella kept on hounding him to work for BuzzFeed, and Zach kept on saying no. He kept with the coordinator job, still horribly depressed, until Christmas Day of 2013. Zach spent this Christmas Day completely alone, which saddest thing ever, by the way, but he is Jewish, so I don't know if he celebrates Christmas. I hope he at least flew home for Hanukkah, because being horribly depressed and then spending Christmas Day or Hanukkah completely alone is, I fear, the worst combination of factors possible. But so it's Christmas Day. Zach is alone in LA, and he decides, you know what, I'm gonna do a movie marathon. So he goes to the AMC down the street, and it just so happens that the first movie he watches is about,
what if you're super talented, but you're meant to get beaten up by life, and Bob Dylan's gonna go on stage after you, and you're just not gonna make it?
Yeah, so he sees that movie, he starts spiraling, and it is at that point that he calls Ella and goes, you know what, a BuzzFeed internship sounds great, okay? 3 months can't hurt. So that's one Try Guy down, but 3 left to go. So next up we have Keith. Keith had grown up in the very rural, very small town of Carthage, Tennessee, before going to Illinois State University on a French horn scholarship, realizing he really liked doing improv, switching his major from music to theater, and losing his entire French horn scholarship. Completely devastating. Imagine having a full ride to college because you play French horn and then losing it. Devastating. But anyway, like Zach, Keith moved cross-country to LA after he graduated, but he did not face anywhere near the same success that Zach did upon his arrival. Because Keith wanted to do improv for a living, so he got a job as the 6th member of the Octavarius Comedy Group, an improv group in LA that did shows and made YouTube sketches on the side. And if for whatever reason you're not familiar with the LA-specific improv scene, it does not pay well. And in fact, it barely pays at all.
I almost didn't have to pay taxes. I was making such a little. The threshold was like $18,000. I think I made $18,100.
So he saw the opportunity to intern at BuzzFeed, and he thought, you know what? It would be nice to earn a livable wage for a few months. So he applied for the internship, he got it, and like Zach, his plan was only to work there for the initial 3 months. He just wanted to make some money, learn how to make better YouTube videos, and then go back to doing improv. And just before we move on, it is very important to me that you know, one of the things that Keith made on his improv group's YouTube channel was a series where he played Edgar Allan Poe doing dramatic readings of pop songs.
I came in like a wrecking ball. I never hit so hard in love. I live for the applause, applause, for the applause.
But in our timeline, Keith is now interning at BuzzFeed. So that's 2 Try Guys down, 2 to go. Eugene grew up in Texas, where he was horrifically bullied throughout his entire childhood, before going to the University of Southern California to major in film, and then, following the pattern of Zach and Keith, moving cross-country to LA. And quick fun fact, the only reason that Eugene does not have a Texas accent is because his older sister
hit me on the back of the head every time I would say things like naked or oak, and she would beat me up because she said I couldn't get into Ivy League school if I sounded like a backcountry.
So Eugene goes to LA, and he starts working the classic Hollywood grind, where his full-time job is as a waiter, but he's directing his own projects on the side. And then this BuzzFeed opportunity rolls around, and he's like, okay, cool, I'll do this internship, get something on my resume. Who knows, maybe it'll help me launch my directing career. And once again, he's only planning to work the initial 3 months there, because he had some very extreme concepts he wanted to make that he could not make at BuzzFeed. Like, if he tried to make the stuff he actually wanted to make at BuzzFeed, the videos would not have just been demonetized. They would have been taken down, and BuzzFeed would have had to issue a public apology.
Oh, there's so much blood. Oh.
I didn't expect that. No, I'm not expecting these things.
I can't watch it. The same.
This is crazy.
And then our last entrance to cover is Ned. Out of all 4 of these guys, Ned is the one that confuses me the most as to how he ended up working at BuzzFeed. Because before taking this internship, this man was a married Yale graduate working in chemistry trying to turn renewable energy sources into diesel fuel. How does that man end up working at BuzzFeed Video, making a video called 5 Harmless iPhone Pranks? I don't know. Truly, I wish I could tell you, but I have no clue how this happened. From what I can find, Ned has said very little about how he transitioned from chemist to BuzzFeed intern. All I can find is that when he was still a chemist, he would do late night improv shows at small clubs in Chicago whenever he could, so at least it wasn't completely out of left field for him to switch to a more creative job, I guess. I don't know, I'm truly baffled by Ned's journey to BuzzFeed. So these 4 guys all start their internships at around the same time, and none of them know each other at all yet. They're all working on completely separate videos, but each of them end up loving working at BuzzFeed, which works out perfectly because all of them end up getting offers to stay and work at BuzzFeed full-time. All of them except for Keith. For whatever reason, when Keith's internship period ended, he wasn't going to be offered a full-time job until Eugene stepped in. Because despite barely knowing Keith at all at the time, Eugene had noticed how good he was at his job. And he was like, you can't just fire Keith.
He was like, why would you not hire him? He's the fastest editor.
And it wasn't like, please, you have to. It was like, you're a fucking idiot and I don't respect you if you make that decision. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and in fact is making me rethink my desire to want to be here.
And Eugene had only just been hired, so I do not know how he already held the sway that he did in that office, but because of him saying something, Keith was offered a full-time job. So all of the guys accept their respective offers. Ned becomes a manager, Zach, Keith, and Eugene all become video producers in different departments.
Keith was like doing all the celeb stuff
stuff. I was in the scripted department. Eugene was making
Crazy
videos.
beauty music videos, basically.
So for the next 4 months, they all remained basically strangers, work acquaintances at best, except for Zach and Keith, who had begun to develop a friendship. And one day, 7 months into their time at BuzzFeed, Keith and Zach were brainstorming video ideas together when they had an idea for a video called Guys Try On Women's Underwear. And they knew that this video would absolutely crush it, because another guy at BuzzFeed had just made the video Men Try On Spanx, and that video had popped off, so they had a proof of concept. They knew that videos where guys try on women's clothing did well. They knew that this was a flawless idea for a 2014 BuzzFeed video. Yet they decided that they weren't gonna make it because it was too easy.
It was just so like, anyone can make that.
But eventually, after an entire month of their coworkers going, hey, just make the video, they finally relented and said, fine, we will make a viral hit if that's really what you want. But now they had a new problem, which was that nobody wanted to be in the video. Because the way that BuzzFeed's video department worked was that everyone behind the scenes was also the on-screen talent. Because the turnaround time to make a video was so fast that they didn't have time to hire outside talent to be in the video. So Zach and Keith had to go around asking camera guy Jeff and producer Rick, hey, do you want to try on women's underwear? And keep in mind, this is back in 2014. Toxic masculinity is at an all-time high. So every single guy in the office says no, except Eugene. So now they have 3 guys, but they want at least 1 more. So they ask Ned, and he initially says no, because he's like, look, I have a wife, I want to have kids someday, this is gonna ruin my reputation. Which is incredibly ironic if you know what's coming. But eventually they got him to agree to be in it.
And we basically just bullied him into joining.
So they make this video, and it does really well. As of today, it has 22 million views. And now you're probably thinking, okay, so this is how the Try Guys started. But not exactly. Because this video was meant to be the first of a 3-part series that these guys would make together, and then they were going to be done. Their group, which was as of this time unnamed, would be disbanded. Because Keith and Zach were the masterminds behind this series, and they didn't think they could get views from just trying random stuff. They thought the only angle that would work was specifically trying on women's clothing, because that was the only video type they had a proof of concept for. And they could only think of 2 more videos in that specific niche. Hence, 2 more videos, then the series dies. So a month and a half later, they make the second video in the series, and once again, they pop off. But then, before they had a chance to make the final installment in the series, something happened. And that something was the Kim Kardashian butt photo. See, in November of 2014, the magazine The Paper released the cover for its winter edition, which was a picture of Kim Kardashian, fully nude, covered in baby oil. And people freaked out, because like, this is already a wildly bold move in 2025. But in 2014, this was like a clinically insane act in people's eyes. And of course, Keith heard about it the day the cover came out, and he saw potential. He had the idea that he and the other guys could make a video recreating the picture. So that same day the cover came out, Keith stormed over to BuzzFeed's production team and he said,
I need a camera and a stage right now. And they said, it's all booked. They said no.
But Keith and the other guys knew that this video would be a hit. So all of them stayed after work, and they were at the office the entire night filming this video. And once everything was shot, Keith stayed up editing until 4 a.m., at which point Eugene took over, and then Zach took over at 8 a.m., while Eugene started working on a BuzzFeed article to post alongside the video. And it was at this point that they kind of clocked, I think this might be more than a 3-part series. This whole trying stuff gambit could be more. So they were like, okay, then we should have a name for us as a group. And Keith suggested, well, we're guys who try stuff, what about the Try Guys? And Zach and Eugene hated this. They thought it was the dumbest idea ever.
I said, that is so fucking stupid.
But they didn't have time to think of anything better, so they went with it and they posted the video the day after the initial cover photo was released. And just like their first 2 videos, this one blew up. It got 10 million views overnight. It's now sitting at nearly 17 million. Like, this thing went crazy Scorsese, okay? So for all intents and purposes, I would say that this video is what truly birthed the Try Guys. It's when they got their name, it's when they realized this could be more than just a 3-part miniseries. Without this video, the Try Guys probably never would have existed beyond the original 3 episodes they'd planned. And over the next 3.5 years, Zach, Keith, Eugene, and Ned made over 100 Try Guys videos at BuzzFeed before going independent in the summer of 2018. Why did they go independent, you may ask? Because BuzzFeed was kind of a cult, and a lot of really, really bad, unsettling things happened while they worked there. Like really bad. Really, really not good. Long story short, BuzzFeed evil, but long story a moderate length length of time. When the Try Guys first became the Try Guys, they made 48 videos in their first year alone that averaged 13 million views each, which is an absolutely insane number. Like, the biggest YouTubers today do not get anywhere near those views, save for like Mr. Beast. So you'd think BuzzFeed would be absolutely holly and jolly over this. Like, they should be ecstatic. They should be treating the Try Guys as their favorite child. But instead, they were genuinely upset by the mere existence of the Try Guys for the dumbest reasons possible. First off, they were constantly pissed off that every Try Guys video meant that 4 people were working on just one video, because they were like, this isn't peak efficiency. If you each worked on a separate video, we'd have 4 videos. And the guys made the obvious point of, hey, the videos we work on together do like 10 times better than the ones we do alone. But then BuzzFeed came in with the stellar counter argument of, shut up, we hate you. And BuzzFeed was also pissed that the Try Guys videos were doing so well, which makes no logical sense. Because, like, don't you want the people that you hired to make good videos to make good videos? But no, because the Try Guys' jobs was to make BuzzFeed go viral, not themselves. But with every video that they did together, they became more and more known as an entity apart from BuzzFeed. So from a viewer's perspective, it was no longer, look at this cool video BuzzFeed made. Instead, it was, look at this cool video the Try Guys made. And BuzzFeed did not like that, because the more recognizable the Try Guys became, the greater the chance that they could leave BuzzFeed and survive on their own. So for these, and I'm sure a lot of other convoluted reasons, BuzzFeed made it unbelievably difficult for the Try Guys to make videos, which is just such a bad business practice. Like, if you're running a company and you're like, wow, these people are so talented, they could work anywhere, your reaction should not be to go, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make them less productive and worse workers so that nobody wants to poach them, because then they're not useful to you either. Your reaction should be like, oh, I should make this as good of a workplace as possible so that then they don't want to leave. Like, their reaction was just so dumb. It pisses me off how stupid of a business decision they made here, okay? And I'm a 20-year-old majoring in psychology, okay? I don't know much about business, but I feel like I'm right on this part. And it gets so much worse, too. Because around 2015, BuzzFeed's video department was switching offices, so every employee was handed a stack of paperwork they had to sign for moving purposes.
We were moving offices, and there's like, oh, you got to sign a new thing for the parking. You got to sign a new thing. You have to sign a new thing. Oh, and also we have a new image release waiver because we're in a new place.
The image release waiver was broad-reaching.
And luckily for me, they ran out of the image release waiver because I was working too late that day. So I didn't sign anything. And then I showed up, and then a week into being at the new office, they realized I hadn't signed the new image release waiver. So some poor intern gets sent to me, and they say, hey, can you sign this? And I was like, well, I got to read it. They're like, well, you need to sign it. I was like, and I read it and I'm like, I'm not going to sign this.
The Try Guys all completely refused to sign this release waiver because it specifically stipulated that signing it meant that BuzzFeed would own your image and likeness forever and your entire personal life story, which is insane. Like, that's straight out of a Supernatural episode making a deal with a demon at a crossroads. And the higher-ups were pissed as hell that they would not sign these things. So they were like, okay, fine, you know what? You don't want to sign it? You can't be in videos. And the Try Guys were like, okay, you still have to pay us, because they were in like a however many years long contract with BuzzFeed. So BuzzFeed couldn't just fire them without facing like a ton of repercussions. BuzzFeed had absolutely no leverage in this situation. They wanted to act like they did, but they had none of it, and the Try Guys clocked this so hard. So when they were banned from making videos, they would just go into the office, clock in, and like play Sims or something for 8 hours straight before going home. To which I say, icons, okay? Like, what a power move. They had all the leverage, and oh boy did they lever it. But they still wanted to be able to make videos, like that's what they enjoyed. So they did eventually get a lawyer to help them force BuzzFeed into changing the release waiver. And that made BuzzFeed so much more pissed off.
We had a meeting with somebody. Yeah. They brought us into a room and they were like, hey guys, so I heard that you are getting a lawyer to look over this. We're like, yeah, and that's what we were told to do. He's like, cool, I think that's a good idea. And then he goes, looks kind of left, right, and he goes, I'm off the record. If you do this, a storm is coming. He literally said, a storm is coming.
Which is just the dorkiest thing to say as a threat. A storm is coming? I sure hope it's not a Skylar storm.
There's a storm coming. Skylar storm.
But so they're caught up in this legal battle for like 3 weeks. Eventually they got BuzzFeed to change the image release waiver. But then the higher-ups do just absolutely loathe them and hate their guts for like the next whole year. So it makes it pretty hard to work there. And then there's a bunch more unethical stuff BuzzFeed did while they were there. They fired employees for doing freelance work on the side, even though BuzzFeed told them explicitly that it was okay to be doing freelance work on the side.
There were a couple people who got laid off because they were like in the background of a music video.
There are people who did a web series on a weekend and were let go.
And there's also just a lot of weird stuff that I don't know if was unethical per se, but it was definitely promoting a toxic work environment.
One day they go, look at this beautiful hoodie, and everyone goes, oh, and they say, we've gotten one for all of you. If you'd like to win it, you must get a video that gets to 1 million in 1 week. And we all drank the fucking Kool-Aid. Back then, it was like, I need that fucking hoodie.
So for all these reasons and more, when the Try Guys BuzzFeed contracts were coming to an end at the beginning of 2018, they all individually decided that they did not want to sign new ones. They were done with BuzzFeed. And at first, that meant that they were all going to be done with the Try Guys too. They were all just going to go their separate ways. Keith goes back to improv, Zach and Eugene go back to Hollywood, Ned goes back to Chemist Land, I guess. Basically, they were never going to make a video together again, and they had all made their peace with that, except for Zach.
I requested with all the guys that we take a meeting together, that we all get in a room and talk about what do we want and what do we see the possibilities being.
He was like, I think we can still do Try Guys on our own YouTube channel without BuzzFeed. So they all talked about it. Ned made a bunch of spreadsheets with financial projections to see if this thing was actually possible. And in the end, they came to the conclusion that, yeah, we can do this independently. So the plan was simple. Start the Try Guys YouTube channel, launch it that summer, post 3 videos a week, and absolutely pop the heck off. Except I lied, it wasn't simple at all, because first they had to find a studio where they could film and edit all the Try Guys stuff. And then of course they had to buy the brand name, the Try Guys, from BuzzFeed, and like hire a bunch of staff, because they could so not get 3 videos out a week with just them working on it. So they had to get a little creative with it. For the studio, it actually ended up that Ned was moving into a new house around the same time they decided to do this. So they pooled a bunch of their money together to buy Ned's old house and turn it into a studio. For the brand name, they spent months negotiating with BuzzFeed to buy the Try Guys from them, and spent a painful amount of money to get that brand name. And for the staff, they just hired 5 people who they'd worked with at BuzzFeed before. And a lot went wrong during this. It sounds like a pretty hellish process.
Ned's baby came 3.5 weeks early.
And then 2 days later, Eugene was cast in a movie.
We had this whole schedule planned out where we were gonna like film all these videos, and then Ned's baby was gonna come, and then we could edit. I had to throw all that out the window.
I haven't slept in 3 days. There were a lot of times I was having panic attacks.
It's certainly the most stressed that I've ever been.
But eventually, on June 16th, 2018, they launched the channel. And people already loved them from BuzzFeed. So within 4 months, they already had 4 million subscribers. And within 4 years, one of them utterly betrayed all of their friendships and had to be kicked out of the group. Which there is so much to say on, but I do want to hit one point before that, which is that in 2019, Eugene came out as gay, which is something that fans had been speculating on for a while. And he came out through this incredible dance music video that's truly just beautiful. The only reason I'm mentioning this in this video is because I think you should go watch this video. And the BTS video for it is really interesting too. But now on to the drama. On September 3rd, 2022, someone anonymously posted to the Try Guys subreddit that Ned had been spotted around New York making out with a woman that was not his wife. And everyone in the comments said BS, Ned would never cheat on Ariel, his wife. Because Ned's persona in the Try Guys was literally the wife guy. Like, this man could not stop talking about how much he loved his wife.
My wife, 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 my wife.
They had a podcast together, 2 kids. She'd appeared in a bunch of Try Guys videos where they did married couple challenges. So obviously everyone in the comments called BS on this random Redditor's baseless claim. But then this Redditor messaged one of the commenters, and they claimed to be Will, the fiance of one of the Try Guys employees, Alex. And Will said, if you want proof, I will give you proof. So he sent this commenter screenshots of an Instagram conversation where Will had basically gotten the "Hey girly" text from a Try Guys fan who had spotted Ned and Alex making out at a bar in New York the night before. And there were receipts. They had videos of it and everything. So Will sends this to the commenter, and they're like, look, I'm sorry about Alex, but I do not believe that is Ned. Like, that's just way too low quality quality of a picture. This could be any average white guy. And for a bit, that's it. The allegations start and end with a Reddit post and a private conversation. But as September goes on, people start to notice the disappearance of Ned Fulmer. The Try Guys drop a new merch line, and Ned isn't in any of the promo photos. Ned's wife Ariel stops appearing in the podcast hosted by the Try Guys' partners. Fans start noticing that it looks almost like Ned's been edited out of a bunch of recent videos, and it's at this point that the Reddit commenter that Will messaged goes, "He might have been right." So on September 25th, they post the whole conversation they had with Will to Reddit, suggesting that maybe this is why Ned has been disappearing from the Try Guys content. So the Try Guys fanbase quickly devolves into chaos as people start finding like grainy side profiles of Ned and pulling them up side by side to see if it's actually him in the photo, and pretty much everyone is like, we think it's him. And then we get even more evidence when some fans take to TikTok to share past encounters they've had with Ned. This TikToker Bree posts about how she saw Ned and Alex making out at a steakhouse way back in May, and she DM'd Ariel about it, but Ariel just never saw it. But all this is just hearsay, right? No matter how much evidence there is, we need to hear from the people actually involved to know what's really going on. And we get that clarity on October 3rd, 2022, when the Try Guys post their now infamous couch video, What Happened.
Ned Fulmer is no longer working with the Try Guys.
They go on to talk about how they were made aware of the cheating situation at the beginning of September. I would assume Will, Alex's now ex-fiance, told them about it. And when they confronted Ned, he confirmed that yes, he was cheating on his wife with Alex. They had no idea any of this was going on.
All of that information was just as shocking to us as all of this has been for you.
So they hired a bunch of lawyers, started editing Ned out of upcoming content, and on September 16th, Ned was removed from the company. And it is worth mentioning that throughout this entire video, Eugene looks like he's gonna kill a hoe. Hoe referring to Ned, of course, not Alex. But Alex sucked here too. They both sucked. There was a whole lot of suckage, both metaphorically and physically, I'm sure.
Got him. Cut that.
And that should have been it. Ned is out, the others are gonna keep making content, life goes on. But then, on October 9th, Zach, Keith, and Eugene get a text from an SNL cast member saying, hey, just so you guys know, there's gonna be an SNL sketch about you guys tonight. Because the whole Ned drama had become like a nationwide scandal. Even your uncle probably knew the name Ned Fulmer. And so the guys were thrilled. Like, hearing that there's gonna be an SNL sketch about you is huge. So they're all buzzing with anticipation to see this thing. And Zach is actually in a movie when it airs, so he steps out, not even to watch the sketch, but just to freak out with his wife and like check what Twitter is saying about it so far.
We hugged and it was cute. And then I opened Twitter and it quickly, the mentions go from, babe, Zach, you're on SNL, wake up, and to, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry what they did to you.
Because the SNL sketch looked like this.
I'm trying to understand why this story is such a scandal. Was this affair non-consensual?
No, worse. He committed the heinous act of having a consensual kiss and not telling us, his friends.
Okay, wow. So the full story is that your friend had a side chick and you fired him? Bro, Jay-Z cheated on Beyonce. It's gonna be okay.
Know that the country is with you. What's today's date? Whatever it is, never forget.
It's basically like, can you believe the Try Guys are overreacting so much to such a tiny thing that just happened? Which is such a bad take in so many ways. Like, the only thing good about this sketch was the costuming. That was on point. The rest of it was an atrocity. Because first off, the Try Guys were not trying to make this drama. They were not being over dramatic about it. They didn't want this to be anywhere near as big of a scandal as it was. They were given evidence that Ned was cheating on his wife, which went against both their personal and brand values. So they decided to kick him out of the company as quietly as they could, and then made a single video telling the fans what was going on. That's it. That's not being dramatic. But SNL seems to think that this was an overreaction, which brings me to my next point. SNL, do you think cheating on your wife is morally correct? Do you think cheating on your spouse is a morally justifiable position? Because based on every single line in this sketch, it really seems like you're trying to tell people it's okay to cheat on your spouse.
Jay-Z cheated on Beyonce. It's gonna be okay.
Also, hey, Ned didn't just betray his spouse, which is already bad enough. He betrayed the other Try Guys. Like, they were incredibly negatively affected by this, because it turned out that their best friend of 8 years was a completely different person than they had been led to believe, and was lying to them and putting the brand that they created together in danger. It is not as cut and dry as Ned cheated on his wife, and even if it was, that's still terrible. Why are you trying to justify this? And luckily, everyone online who was remotely aware of this situation, called SNL out on what a terrible take that was. But you still have to wonder, how does a sketch like this get written? Well, the TikTok sleuths we know and love did some digging, and they found out that one of the writers for this sketch, Will Stevens, went to Yale with Ned, and they seem to still be friends. So the theory is that either Ned got Will to slant the sketch in his favor, or Will slanted the sketch in favor of Ned of his own accord. And ironically enough, the sleuths found out that Ned was friends with Will through a Try Guys podcast episode that his affair partner was on. Will was brought up because the affair partner, Alex, was talking about how lovely it was for her to meet Will at an SNL after party. You can't make this up. Now, of course, all of this is hearsay, all of it's alleged. There's no concrete evidence that Will slanted the sketch to favor Ned, but all the signs are pointing, right? So all this happens. It's a terrible time, but in a weird twist of fate, it kind of saves the Try Guys. Because in the months before all the Ned stuff came out, Zach was thinking about quitting. Because the Try Guys had been making the same one thing ever since they started at BuzzFeed. For the past 8 years, every single video was either them trying a new experience or Keith eating something. And Zach was tired of making those same videos over and over again. That wasn't what excited him anymore. He wanted to branch out and make something different. The problem with that was the way the YouTube algorithm works nowadays, it wants channels to make one thing and one thing only. Like MrBeast makes challenge videos and only challenge videos. If he tries to post a vlog to his main channel one day, it's not gonna do well, no matter how good the vlog is. Which sounds pretty arbitrary, but there are reasons why the YouTube algorithm does this. I'm just not gonna explain all of them here because I think I'm the only one here that cares about the inner workings of the YouTube algorithm. But because of the algorithm, branching out like Zach wanted to and making a bunch of different stuff for Try Guys would have tanked the channel. Which meant that as long as he was a Try Guy, he'd be stuck making the same content over and over again. Stuck in a creative prison, unable to grow or explore. So the obvious answer was leave the Try Guys. But then all the Ned stuff happened, and everyone left was forced to take a step back and go, hey, what now? Because like they couldn't just keep making the same content they'd made with Ned. It just didn't feel right. So they had to ask themselves, what do we want the Try Guys to look like moving forward? And it turned out that it wasn't just Zach. All of them wanted to branch out, try different formats, make new shows. So they got to work, and over the next 2 years, they launched 5 new formats on the Try Guys channel. Smoke Show, Trolley Problems, Escape the Kitchen, Drop Into City, and Common Sense. But given like everything I just said, why did they just commit to like tanking the channel? And the answer is no, you silly little geese. They had a plan, I promise. Because in June of 2024, they announced that they were launching Second Try, a Try Guys streaming service. And all of these new formats they'd released were actually Second Try shows. So if you wanted to see more of them, plus a bunch more original shows, you'd have to subscribe to Second Try. And to be clear, this wasn't a Watcher situation where they paywalled like all of their free content. They still post a bunch of free stuff to YouTube. And all the new shows had only aired 1 episode each on YouTube before it was announced that they were Second Try shows. So it wasn't like they got people hooked on all these new shows and then shoved them behind a paywall. Nobody really knew that these were gonna be full shows until Second Try was announced. They just thought they were really good one-offs. But with this announcement came another really sad one, because the day after Second Try was announced, it was also announced that Eugene was leaving the Try Guys. Thankfully this time it wasn't because of any drama or anything. Zach and Keith are still really good friends. But Eugene had been looking for a way to leave the Try Guys for a while, just because he had other creative avenues he wanted to explore. Like he was making a movie, writing a novel, acting and stuff, writing a comic book, and he was actually supposed to step away way before this, but then the whole Ned drama happened, so he stayed on for a bit longer to help Zach and Keith deal with everything. So the guys have known this is happening for a while. He leaves on great terms. And for a while, the Try Guys universe settles. Keith and Zach are rolling along, making content as usual. The streaming service is, I hope, going well. I don't know the numbers. But then on September 17th, 2025, 3 years after being ousted from the Try Guys and disappearing off the face of the internet, Ned Fulmer is back. He's starting a podcast, and he is hard launching it with an episode with his ex-wife Ariel where they talk about his affair, which is an insane move. The internet was and is still utterly guffawed by this. So I'm just gonna play you guys some of the clips, and then we're gonna go over the internet's reaction to this. And if you've already seen the podcast and you don't want to watch the clips again, you can just skip to this timestamp.
People ask me, do you forgive Ned? And I mean, the answer is no, absolutely not.
There was a lot of delusions and rationalizations that you, as the person doing that, sort of are telling yourself why it's not so bad, or why it's going to be okay, or why actually this talked about it in this way. And then it's like, I remember that moment, it all just kind of like totally could see how I've been hurting this person that I love this whole time.
You didn't realize until then?
Well, you know, but then there's other things you tell yourself to kind of sort of compartmentalize, or I guess.
When you told me, I had to take all of that guilt and shame of your affair, and it was so much to carry. And in our like society, when men have affairs, women are often looked at as like, well, what did you do wrong? Were you not a good enough wife? Did you not make him happy enough? And there's so much shame there. I'm so tired of holding it. How does it make you feel to hear that? Did it ever occur to you that like all of that guilt and shame, you like hoisted that on me?
I don't think it's fair that as a society you're put in that position. And no, it's not something that I imagined as I was doing that.
I don't know. I thought we had this love that like transcended, but it was a fantasy. I just think, how could you do that to me?
I'm so sorry.
Like, we had so much. There was so much.
So that's the gist of it. This thing comes out, and the internet is flaming him. Like, the comments are brutal. Every influencer you know is making a video about Ned's return and how the internet does not want him back. And then, a month after launching the podcast, he launches his personal YouTube channel, and you'll never guess the type of content he makes there. He makes videos where he's trying things. He just makes Try Guys again. And this, of course, earns him a bunch more hate, because people are like, can you not just come up with an original idea?
And my hot take on all of this is, I don't know. I don't know if he's actually changed or not. I don't know if he's actually sorry he cheated on Ariel. I don't know if he genuinely cannot fathom originality, or if trying new stuff is just something he still wants to make videos about. And I don't think any of us can know, because we don't know him. We know a facade of him. We know what he's put online. And I genuinely hope he's changed, because if not, that's just really sad. So I hope he has actually changed, but I have no clue. But I will say, one certifiably good thing that came out of Ned's return is that Zach and Keith are throwing so much shade, and it is hilarious.
By the way, Goose Boyfriend, upcoming guest on Stay tuned.
You can't say things by their name.
You have to believe that.
We have to always sort of artfully dodge.
So funny. I was telling people, hey, baby, and I thought it was fine.
I said, let's dance. Apparently, it's supposed to ask, do you want to dance?
That's when I started doing a lot of hard drugs.
Anyway, is that what your experience was like?
And then they did also briefly address the whole thing seriously in their 2025 recap video.
Something happened this last fall. It was a bummer. The bigger bummer, though, is it just made the conversation about something that happened 3 years ago and not all the cool stuff that we're working on. And basically, we just want to keep plowing forward. The reason we don't talk about it much is that doesn't matter to me, baby. I'm working on cooler shit. I don't need to be worried about what some is doing. I'm just going to keep working on cool stuff, uplifting voices that need uplifting, and making stuff that our fans want to watch, not.
And that's kind of where we're at now. If you like this video, make sure you go watch this one, where I watched every single Smosh video and dove into their lore, because their history is so bad and so insane. I cannot believe the things you could post to YouTube in 2009. Plus, I actually made a Ned joke in that video literally 3 weeks before he resurfaced with his podcast. So that's ironic. Okay, see you next time. Bye-bye.